Mariella?
Okay, yeah, it's recording.
Okay, cool. All right. So good morning again, everybody. Thanks for joining. Hopefully I can provide you with some helpful information for the coming market or any market really, because short sales and foreclosures can happen in any market. So straight off, I can tell you, I've never represented a bank in a REO sale. I've only represented buyers in them. So I can answer buyer questions, but I can't tell you what the bank's thinking or how they do it or how they hire agents to represent their bank owned or REO properties. Does everybody know what REO stands for? It means real estate owned. So when the bank or the investor on the loan takes the property back in a foreclosure process, there's no such thing as, I mean, people call it foreclosed homes or I want to buy a foreclosure. Foreclosure is a process. It's not a status of the property. REO is the status of the property after the foreclosure process. So if you were on the mastermind on Friday, you know, for me, words matter, right, Shaheen? We talked about that a lot. So, and having the right terminology helps you to also explain. I see you unmute, Shaheen. We were talking about how words matter and how we say on Friday.
No, I heard you, but I was on mute. Yeah, I heard you.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with short sales in that. The consumer is going to say that the bank is their lender, right? So just so you know, kind of the order, it's important to know like what the order of things is, because you know how loans get sold to different servicers. So in the vast majority of cases, the bank who has the loan is not the lender. They're just the servicer. Okay. The lender is the investor. So there's the investor who gives the money, there's the servicer, and then there's the consumer. So the servicer could be Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, SPS Servicing, and any number of other companies. They're servicing the loan for the investor. The investor is the one who has the ultimate decision on whether or not they will agree to a short sale. So the investor could be FHA, it could be Fannie Mae, it could be Freddie Mac, it could be a private investor, it could be a credit union, it could be a group of people who decided to create an investment group and loan on mortgages. So in most cases, you don't know who the investor is. You'll know if it's Fannie, Freddie, or FHA. Hopefully the homeowner knows if they have an FHA loan. If not, the lender can tell you. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have lookup tools. So you can look up the loan to see if it's a Fannie or a Freddie. How the loan gets processed can vary. There are some people out there who might be promoting a pre-approved short sale. You have to know what questions to ask to find out, well, what does that mean? It's pre-approved. So if I put an offer in, I can close in 30 days. Or does that just mean that the homeowner has been approved for a short sale? Because with FHA, for example, with FHA, you first have to go through the HAMP modification process. They have to determine whether or not you would qualify for a modification before they will agree to let the homeowner do a short sale. And also FHA requires that the property be on the be marketed for 120 days, and they'll tell you what price. So with FHA, it's almost in your best interest to get the homeowner approved for an FHA short sale first. Because if they qualify for a modification, they won't let them do a short sale. They'll disapprove it. Okay, so you might be marketing and maybe even have gotten an offer and can't sell the property because the homeowner is disapproved for a short sale because their circumstances will allow them to do a modification. Are y'all with me so far?
Yes.
Okay, so FHA is probably the most complicated because of that. Now, I'm working on a document, and I'll post the document in the comments after I've finished editing it. It's a lot. It's several pages. Well, it's 9 pages. So when I'm done kind of editing the document, I will post it in the recording of this meeting so that you can download it, because it'll be like your notes, right? It's basically everything that we're going to talk about. Obviously, you'll keep other notes today too, but this will help you in case you missed anything. So the process, and I'm talking about FHA first because it can be one of the biggest time wasters if you don't do things in the right order. I have to silence my watch or it's just going to annoy me. So let me get to my FHA notes here. So in order to be eligible for an FHA short sale, you have to have only one FHA insured loan. You have to be experiencing a permanent financial hardship, such as reduced income, like from a job loss and you won't be able to get another job, or maybe you retired, or went on disability, or got a divorce, have excessive medical expenses, things like that, that you're not going to be able to recover financially to keep the home. You have to live in the house unless you left the property for the same reason you can't make payments. But here's the thing, your client should not leave the property, period. They should not leave the property until their short sale, their deed in lieu, their foreclosure, whatever is done. They should stay in the property. I'm not really clear why people abandon properties, but and then they go and they pay rent somewhere else. It's silly. Or they go move in with family. Stay in the home, maintain the home to the best of their ability is what they should be doing. That's what they committed to the lender to do. And during this process, they're living there. I mean, they're not paying expenses, you know, potentially they're not paying the mortgage because they don't have the money to pay the mortgage, but they also have the ability to possibly get some relocation funds. Some of the reasons why I hear people leaving their houses is they're like, well, I want to go rent now before my credit is trashed from the foreclosure or from the short sale or this or that. If they're not making their payments, their credit's trashed already. So that's just something in their head that they're telling themselves. So they should stay there. And they can also, if they're working on a plan, whether it be a modification or a forbearance or a short sale, oftentimes the foreclosure process, you can request it to be halted. So they won't continue that process and you know, put people out of their homes while they're working on a solution. Okay, because they want people to work on a solution. The banks don't want to take homes back, contrary to what a lot of people think. They don't want to take them. They don't want that inventory. They're not in the real estate business. They're in the lending business. Okay. If the house also could not have been purchased for a rental or used as a rental for more than 18 months, the title has to be clear, so there can't be any other liens on it. If there's a second mortgage, they have to negotiate that in advance as well. And there can't be like a mechanic lien or a tax lien. All of that stuff has to be resolved before they can do a short sale or as part of the short sale. And also if they're unable to modify their current loan or don't wish to remain in the house due to other circumstances, such as a job relocation. So a job relocation is a hardship. You can't live in Illinois and work in Texas. It just doesn't work. That's a long commute. And if they stay in the home and everything goes smoothly and they qualify for a short sale and get approved for a short sale, they could get up to $3,000 in relocation money. Now, that's with FHA, and that can vary. It depends on the situation. With Freddie and Fannie, I don't know what they're doing now, but a couple of years ago when I was doing a lot of short sales, they were giving up to $10,000 in relocation money, which is a reason not to leave. Okay. Again, I don't know what they're doing now, if they're offering anything at all. They probably are. It may be as much, it may be not as much, but you'll find out through each loan that you do. You have to ask a lot of questions of the servicer. Okay. And again, I'll send you these notes with all the other information in here. One of the other things, again, getting back to pre-approved, when you see somebody that says another reason why an agent might be marketing the property as a pre-approved short sale is because they had a contract. The homeowner went through the whole process to be approved for a short sale, and they had a contract, and the lender approved the short sale, but maybe not at the number that the buyer was under contract for. So the buyer said, you know what, I'm not paying that price. I'm out. Peace out of here. So now they have an approval and they just need a replacement contract. So is that possible? Yeah. Your contract literally has to be identical to the contract that was approved, though, in order for you to close within, say, a 30 to 45 day period. And it has to be like they just got the approval. So if whenever you see a listing that says that it's a pre-approved short sale, you should call the agent and say, please explain to me what your pre-approval means. When did you receive it? Does the contract have to read a specific way? Is the seller just approved for a short sale, or, you know, the seller and the property? Or, you know, do you have to start from square one when you get a new contract? And how many days does that mean? So documents in short sale world are valid for 60 days. After 60 days, nope, they got to do another BPO. They might have to request financials again, bank statements, pay stubs, things like that from the homeowner. That takes time. Supposedly, short sales are supposed to be approved within 30 to 60 days of receipt, right? Yeah, I see you, Joe. Now, what does that mean, though? They do not start counting the clock until every document has been received and approved. Every I has to be dotted, every T has to be crossed, every comma has to be in the right place. If you forget to put the loan number on the top of a document, it's not a valid document. They are very particular and sometimes just crazy, in fact. But until the last piece of paper has been received and validated and is within the time frame that the things are valid, which by the time you collect all the documents, sometimes the first documents that you had are now no longer valid. So because it depends on how long your seller takes to get documents. It depends if you're negotiating a second lien. And then the second lien says, well, give me the approval from the first lien. Then the first lien says, well, give me the approval from the second lien. We're not approving without it. And I'm like, okay, I'm in a loop now. So somebody has to be the chicken and somebody has to be the egg, because I can't get one without the other. Then we're never going anywhere. So you have to know exactly what that pre-approval means and what is the time frame from the time they get a new contract to closing, realistically, so that you can properly advise your buyers. And the buyer doesn't get into a deal that they're just disappointed in waiting on a quote unquote pre-approved short sale, and 6 months later, they're still waiting for their approval. Okay. It's very important to have proof of funds. You want proof of from the buyer, whether you're representing the buyer or whether you're representing the seller. Proof of funds that the banks now want. They want the mortgage pre-approval, and they want the proof of funds from the buyer that they have the money, the down payment and the closing cost money. Okay. If it's cash deal, they want proof of funds for the purchase amount plus closing costs. So if they're purchasing for $300 and they give you a pre-approval for $300, the bank's going to be like, well, they don't have any closing money. What's the deal? Okay. So again, the clock doesn't start counting until they receive and approve the last document. So don't get confused when somebody says, well, we can close short sales in 2 weeks. No, you're not. No, you're not. It takes longer than that to get the appraisal and do the inspection and do everything else. So you're not. And I'll have kind of a timeline. I had sent Joe and I were emailing about this recently, and I sent him a timeline. So I'll send you that timeline as well in here. It just kind of bullet points what to expect, but don't expect to close in 30 days. I think the fastest I've gone from start to finish was 60 days, and that was with a small bank. So small banks, small neighborhood banks, credit unions, those can usually get done faster. And the reason why is because the small neighborhood banks, they just go to the board of directors and they take a vote. It's pretty much the same with the credit union. And sometimes the head of the credit union it's just one person making a decision versus a board. So those are the ones that can get done the quickest if everything goes well. They also require fewer documents, which is nice. But anytime you're dealing with a big bank, you know, a big servicer, you're going to have to provide the whole package. What does the whole package mean? That's a whole nother question. And who's going to get it together? Who's the one that's going to work on it? So the whole package is going to be an application. It's going to be a tax form allowing them to pull transcripts on your taxes for the last 3 years. It's going to be copies of their last two tax returns. Sometimes three tax returns. 3 banks, the last 3 bank statements, the last 3 months of pay stubs or any other income, whether they're on disability or unemployment or anything like that. So proof of income. They're going to need, if they're trying to do a modification, they're going to need a non-borrower credit check. That means that somebody who's not on the mortgage now, but the homeowner would like their income considered because it is income into the household in order to do a modification. The tax form is a 4506T easy in most cases, giving them the authority to pull transcripts. And a hardship letter, a hardship affidavit. When you get a contract together and an approval, you'll also need a arm's length affidavit. There'll be a third-party authorization allowing you to speak to the servicer on behalf of the homeowner. Or if the attorney is handling it, then the attorney would be submitting a third-party authorization. Then when you get to the contract, there'll be the contract, the addendums, short sale addendums. Oh, and with the listing agreement, there's also a short sale listing agreement, and the verbiage, for some lenders, the verbiage is very specific what it has to say in there. That it's about if the short sale does not get approved, the homeowner is released from that listing agreement with no penalty, no charge, no anything. So there's addendums for that. And then as far as submitting documents, there's different ways you can submit them. Most of them can be submitted by uploading online now or emailing through a secure email. Faxes, in some cases, you might have to fax. It just depends. There wasn't, like, they were kind of getting away from faxes, except for smaller places. We're still doing faxes. When I was last doing these, and I don't know how many hundreds of these over the 5 years that I had the business I did. But so every bank is different, and you need to just find out from the lender. You first get the authorization from the seller to speak to the bank, and then you speak to the lender and get all the details. Also, oftentimes, if you go to the lender's website, you can find the details on how to do a short sale with that particular lender. Again, you want to know what type of loan it is, though. FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or private investor. Just because that way you also can like have in your mind what's going to happen next. Because Fannie and Freddie and FHA, they have their set the way it has to be done. And on Fannie Mae, not only do you submit to the servicer, but when you get a contract, you upload that to Fannie Mae, which is nice because it makes the servicer respond faster because they know, oh, Fannie Mae, our investor already has the contract, right? They already know there's a contract. I can't dilly-dally. And when things are taking too long, you can message Fannie Mae and say, look, the servicer has had the documents all this time. What's going on? And then they're kind of instrumental in helping you work with the servicer to get it done. It's still going to take 60 days though. So let's say it takes 60 days for the approval. The buyer then has to be ready to close in 30 days after they get the approval letter. Sometimes they get 45, but in a perfect world, they're ready to close in 30 days after the approval is received. Okay, what does that mean? That means your attorney review and inspection had to be done when they signed the contract. You don't never allow a buyer on your short sale listing to say, we're going to do the attorney review and inspection after we get the approval. No, you're not. You're going to do it now. It's one of the rules, or we're not going to accept the contract. That's just how it goes, because we don't have time later for you to take the time to do those things, or B, have an inspection and then walk. Now we have an approval in hand, which is why some people have approvals in hand too, is they allowed the buyer not to do their inspection at the time of the contract, and they let them wait until they got the approval, and then they did the inspection and walked. Well, great, now I'm standing here with an approval in my hand and no buyer. So that's another reason why someone might have a pre-approved short sale, because they didn't do the right thing. So don't do that. I think that's kind of it as far as the process goes. And my notes will give you more details if there's something you need. Are there any specific questions? Because I also want to kind of talk a little bit about how do you find them? How do you find distressed properties?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Do you collect earnest money at the beginning? Because I learned the hard way that through an investment firm that was buying up short sales, they didn't want to give earnest money till later. And they changed their mind the day it was approved.
No earnest money, no contract. They have to give you the beginning process has to be exactly the way it is in a regular sale.
Okay.
You collect the earnest money, you have the inspection, you have the attorney review. I mean, obviously the attorney will still have the right to review the approval letter. And if it's unsatisfactory to the buyer, if some condition in the approval letter is unsatisfactory to the buyer can still walk. But all other matters have to be resolved in the regular time frame of a contract.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's no accountability. When there's no skin in the game, it's easy to walk. There has to be skin in the game.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And even if it's just $1,000, at least they're in, and and explain. I apologize, I got on late. When you have a buyer that's putting a short sale under contract, did you talk about buyers at all?
Not much, a little bit.
You need to really explain these time frames to them.
Yeah.
That they're locked in for 90 days, not knowing if probably at a minimum, they're locked in for 90 days and not knowing whether they bought the house or not. Right.
And if they say, well, I can still look at other houses and make other offers, right? Point out the paragraph that talks about them operating in good faith. Because I mean, they're operating in good faith, like they want to buy this home. They understand the process. It's worth the wait to them. And, they'll wait it out. Because technically, if an attorney really wanted to hold a buyer's feet to the fire, they could not let them out of the contract, right? Right, Joe? They could.
Yep.
If an attorney wanted to hold the buyer's feet to the contract, they could.
Well, that's why you sign that addendum that says you're going to wait for 90 days for the bank. So you're in limbo and you can't really do anything else. Right. And what we always explain to our buyers is that, okay, you say yes now, I said, about 30, 45 days, you're going to get antsy. What's going on?
Yep.
What's happening? And then I say, well, we told you you're going to need to wait maybe 90 days. But we want this, and we saw this house, and we're looking on Zillow, and there's this other house. And say, yep. Remember we talked? I said about 30, 45
Would
days.
you like to buy 2 houses?
Yeah, you're going to get antsy. I told you you're going to get antsy, and look, you're getting antsy.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, it's, I kid, you know, with a buyer, it's kind of like an annuity. As a realtor listing them, it's an annuity. I don't do any of our own negotiations anymore. I strongly recommend and prefer, Sally probably be the only one in the market center that I would say you can do your own. Every single one of us, including me and anyone on my team, we hand it off to an attorney that still handles it. Let them deal with all the paperwork. Let them deal with the timeline. Let them deal with Equator. That's the
Oh yeah, Equator.
Let them deal with all that, and you go on and sell other houses while you're waiting for it to get approved, and help where you can and how you can.
So I have a question here.
That's my 2 cents especially as your designated managing broker. Yeah. Don't do it. I used to do it.
It's very time consuming. It's very time consuming, and it's very stressful, and it causes sleepless nights. But you still need to know how they are done and what the time frames are, and the reason why you need to know that. And you also want to have third-party authorization along with any attorney, because oftentimes, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but people don't do their jobs, and you need to be able to call people on their nonsense and say, this is how far we're into it. We should be here. Where are we? And you want to be able to call the lender and say, is there something you're waiting for that I can rattle a cage for? Because my client needs to close. My client needs to move on. The buyer is getting anxious. Do you have the documents? That way, if the attorney or the third-party negotiator or whomever is handling your transaction for you, can't hide from you and tell you lies. Okay, it's important. Shaheen, I know you had a question.
Yeah, my question is like, what about the price? Is it like a cheaper? Hold on, I have to shut down my phone.
No. It used to be, say 10 years ago, you used to be able to get it for 50 or 80 cents on the dollar, depending on the property and the location of the property. Not anymore. The banks want market value. So whatever the market value is for that home in whatever its as is condition is, because the only sales the sales have to be as is. As is, no warranty, no repairs by the seller. Absolutely not allowed. And
100% tax proration.
100% tax proration. Yep. No fancy footwork in the contract. It has to be clean, straightforward. I think they don't even really care. Like, they don't even want to see the personal property. They don't care about that. But it has to 100% be as is, and no slippery, slidey stuff going on under the table, because everybody will go to jail. Everybody in the transaction, if something slimy is going on under the table, will go to jail. It's only a matter of time. People are in jail now because of it. So if somebody comes up to you and says, what can I do to ensure that I get this property? I'll give the homeowner this has happened to me. I will give the homeowner $10,000 cash today if you accept my offer. I don't look good in orange or stripes, so that's not going to happen. So no, you cannot do that. The same thing, like back in the day, people were, investors or slimy people were convincing homeowners to sign their deeds over to them and saying that, oh yeah, I will pay your back mortgage and you'll be able to stay in your home. You'll just pay me rent, sign your deed over to me. And then they would be the owner of the house and not do anything they said they were going to be. And the homeowner was still on the hook for the mortgage. That's the kind of stuff that was happening like 15 years ago. You can't, everything has to be above board, because your name is on the listing agreement, your name is on the contract. You will be in court with everyone else if something slimy gets found out.
I have one more question. So after attorney's approval and inspection, So let's say you found some things that major things. Do they negotiate the price then or anything? So okay, all right. All right.
I mean, unless you do that before you submit the offer to the bank, you can do that. You cannot submit the offer to the bank until after the attorney review and inspection, and then renegotiate before you submit to the bank.
Right. Yeah.
You can't, once it's submitted to the bank, you're not, unless it's something happens during the time that you're waiting for the short sale approval. Like, let's just say you're waiting for short sale approval and the spring rains came, the homeowner moved out, the electricity's off, the sump pump's not on in that particular house, and guess what? It flooded. That's different. And now you can get contractor bids for the repair and pray to God that the mold doesn't grow at a fast pace before you get an approval. And then you can submit the contractor bids and say, we want to adjust the price based upon this. They're not going to give you a credit to fix it though. That's not going to happen. So hopefully it's a cash buyer.
Yeah, and that's, to reiterate what Sally said, that's why you do the inspection and everything else on the forefront. And if these buyers really want it, they'll agree to do it. There's a lot of agents. Well, there's a lot of agents out there. There's probably 70% of the agents out there have never done a short sale now.
Correct.
So
and they think they know something.
Well, we don't want to do this. Well, you're not in control. The bank's
That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to do it. Good luck. Find another house.
Move on.
Yeah. Right. All right. We're okay with that.
Yep. And
all right. Any other questions regarding process, time frame?
I think it's a lot of follow-ups. I think
it is.
Yeah.
Who does anybody here want to list short sales now after all that?
Oh
I
my
still
God.
will. Give them to me. I'll take them.
Of course.
All right. So let's see. How do I do this? Do you want to know how to find them?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let me see if I can help you. Oh, and I do have some websites here that might be helpful to you too. I can never get, everything's always in my way on my screen. I don't know what that's about. How can I move this? I can move this, I'm sure. Oh, yay, that was easy. Okay, so what I'll do here is I will see if I can copy. I think I can copy and paste this in the chat. Yes. Where's the chat? Participants, new share, remote, more. Chat. All right. So here is the Fannie Mae website where you can get more information on Fannie Mae helping their homeowners. And this is a real, this next one, oh, this one's Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac is, it's got information, but it's not as helpful because Freddie Mac wants everybody to go to a local neighborhood like counseling type place. This website, makinghomeaffordable.gov, this is super important for you to have because it talks about the HAMP program and just other foreclosure options. And then on the Freddie and Fannie pages that I shared, their lookup tool is on there too. At the bottom of the screen, you can look up the client's mortgage with the information that's required to see if it's a Freddie or a Fannie loan. And then that's it for now. So those three are FHA doesn't have a lookup tool. They're like the best kept secret. VA doesn't either. So you just have to ask the lenders if it's an FHA or a VA loan or a Freddie, you know, if you're calling them, you can even ask if it's Freddie or Fannie. Sometimes a short sale is not the best option for your client too. That's the other thing is like, you have to know how to, you kind of have to know how to not guide your client, but just talk to them about all of their options and what their desires are and what is their plan if they're out of the house. Sometimes they can afford a modification, but they just don't know how to do it, right? So you talk to them about that as well and connect them with the right department and their lender to do it because you won't get paid for that at all in any way, shape, or form. It's just doing the right thing for future business. if you're guiding them to do that. Sometimes a deed in lieu ends up being the best option for your client because you can't sell the property. You're on the market 120 days, nobody's interested. They don't qualify for a modification, the short sale is not happening. So sometimes the deed in lieu becomes your client's only or best option. Everything is a better option than foreclosure. Everything. They should never just say, I'm going to mail, I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to lock the door and walk away. Because with the most important thing is with these programs, the modification keeps them in the home. The short sale and the deed in lieu give them the opportunity to waive the balance of the mortgage. A foreclosure does not. A foreclosure leaves the door open for the servicer or the end investor to come back after the homeowner for the balance of the mortgage that was uncovered by them taking the property back, getting paid the insurance and selling it and getting that money, right? So they don't want to leave that door open. They want to close the door by doing a short sale or a deed in lieu so that they can sleep at night, not worrying about, are they going to get a bill in the future? Okay, so you have to be able to explain that to them. Why do they want to do a short sale or a deed in lieu instead of just walking away and letting the bank take the property? The most people who have to do a short sale, the conversations are there, you have to be sensitive, right? I mean, this is a hard, stressful time for people. You can't, be too harsh. You have to be comforting. There are some people, most people, the vast majority truly do have a hardship, and some of them are very sad. And it's hard to even for you to keep your emotions between the lines when you're trying to guide them because their stories are very sad. Some of them are a trip. They're, they've got 2, 3 mortgages, sometimes even 4 mortgages on the property. And they're like, yeah, the bank wants to take my property back. What a ripoff, blah, blah. I'm like, look, the bank gave you the money, right? The investors gave you the money. You bought your home for this much. In the meantime, you've taken out 2 or 3 or 4 other loans and took money out every time. What did you do with that money? And most times you look around the house, they didn't put all that money in the house, and it's like, who's really getting the shaft? You have to really back it up a minute and realize that they gave you the money. They're the ones not getting the money back. They're not taking anything from you. They wanted you to pay them back. They gave you the chance to pay them back. So, sometimes you have to do that, have that come to Jesus reality conversation with them to get them to be cooperative with you for all the information that the bank wants, because it's 100% dependent on the seller providing documents and information in a timely fashion. I shouldn't say 100. It's 60% that. And then it's 40% getting a good team negotiating the deal at the servicer end. Because if you get a bad team at the servicer end, it's a 2-year process. Don't laugh, Joe. It's true.
I've lived it, and recently.
I know, you and me both. It's for real.
Some of the having the come to Jesus sometimes. Yeah, they gave you the money, you didn't pay it back. Yeah. And you spent money on a pool and a couple of
vacation
cars and a boat and some vacation. So, however, some of the most rewarding sales I ever had were helping people out of short sales, because sometimes bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
And I've literally once I've looked at people and said, I can get you out of this. And they literally broke down crying.
Yep.
Because you just felt the weight come off of their shoulders.
Yeah, their whole expression changes, their breathing changes. You're right.
Because they're tired.
And the vast majority are that. I would say, Joe, that the vast majority are that.
Yeah.
It's just every once in a while you get somebody who just doesn't understand. And you have to kind of realign them with reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about how to find them. So one of the easiest ways to find them right now, I guess, for that everybody has access to would be Remine. Okay, so if you log into Remine, you can, I'm just trying to hide this thing a little bit. I guess I can go back to the beginning before I started this. Let me go to, so if you go to search in Remine, and then, don't do that. Go to advanced over here at the top on the right. You can go to advanced. No, can I hide this? Sorry, I just wanted to see if I could hide that toolbar so that you don't have to see it, but. Here. Are you there? That didn't work. Okay, so you go to advanced, and then you go to Remine filters. Now in filters, when you go all the way to the bottom, you see that there is distressed deals. So you can look up Liz Pendens. So Liz Pendens is when, you know, they're 3 months or more behind on their mortgage. So the lender will file a Liz Pendens to protect their interest. Okay. Then the notice of default comes later after they go to court and they confirm that, yeah, the person's not paying, isn't going to pay, whatever. Then they serve a notice of default, again, calling the homeowner to court to talk about what are they doing, okay? What is your intention? Then comes, if the homeowner does nothing, does not reach out to the lender at all or the lender's attorney, the notice of foreclosure sale will come. And a foreclosure, that means a foreclosure sale date has been set. So it's going to go to the courthouse. Basically, they say buying a foreclosure, buying a property on the courthouse steps. That's what that is. So anybody who wants to buy it can go down to the courthouse on the scheduled sale date to purchase the property. The lender's looking to get what they're owed or close to it. Otherwise, the lender ends up buying it back and then buying it themselves. And then that's when it becomes an REO property. Okay. Then there's also trustee sales that could happen. And I don't know what all the circumstances are that would cause that, but maybe Joe knows. I haven't dealt with those, but I marked it off anyway, because they're all distressed sales. So they're all people who have to sell. The one who has a sale date scheduled, that's going to be the tightest one. If it's more than 30 days out, I would say if it's 60 or more days out, you might have a chance. If it's closer than that, that's tough. Everything, all the stars have to align properly. It has to be a smaller bank or a credit union, something like that. The bigger investors, it'll be too hard. Okay, so then you just click apply once you've chosen those. Now you go back up to the top, you go back here to location. And now so right now I have Illinois in there, and it says 205 results. You and I both know that there are more than 205 in Illinois. So you see up here, I have, earlier it was 40,000+. So you see my 4 filters that I have up here. So now you pick a location. So let's just say we're going to pick Des Plaines, 60016. No, 60016. 60016. All right. Yeah, something ain't right. Oh, I know why. You see this little map boundaries? That's my problem. You have to turn that thing off. You're in the way. Let me move you. You have to turn this guy off. And now it'll give me more results. Okay. All right. So I have 11 in 60016, and I did this earlier. I gotta move you guys again, I think, because you're where I have to go. Here. So down here at the bottom, you'll see I can list results or map results. I'm gonna list results. I did this earlier and I found it curious. How can I make this smaller? So over here, this is telling me how much equity the person has in the property. Okay. Some of these are really big numbers. This one is actually, this first one is for sale. It's active. You see it says active. The rest of these are off market. So they're not actively for sale right now in the MLS anyway. Okay. Look at this equity. So if I click on that particular listing, there was a notice of list pendants. So they're not paying their mortgage on December 11th, 2020. Maybe a COVID related situation, right? It's not corporate owned. It doesn't have an absentee owner. There's the borrower. There's who the bank is. There's their amount past due. Gives you a lot of information, right? Auction date invalid. So an auction date hasn't been set yet. It's too soon. There's the attorney for the lender, Codillis and Associates. They're a big one. Pierce is another big one. The other thing you have to look for too, you have to do some sort of preliminary title search to know if there are other liens, right? Second liens. It's amazing how many people don't know what liens they have. If there's an open HELOC, they don't know. They're like, oh, I never used it. Well, it's still open. You need to close it. There might be tax liens. There might be mechanics liens, different things. So right here, it's saying that here's their net equity, right? Here's this is the estimated value. This is their loan balance. So they have 90% equity and they're at risk of losing the home. So now that's somebody who, if they're not going to be able to get back on their feet soon, should really be considering just a regular sale, right? They don't need to do a short sale. Your conversation with them is, hey, you don't want to lose $200,000 in equity. Let me help you save that. Now is a great time to sell. But you have to be cautious, right? Like, how do you start that? You know, do you start it with a postcard? Do you start it, you know, people are going to be sensitive. People are going to want to know how you got their information. How do you know? It's public information. You know, I want to help you. I'm here to help. So maybe a card or a postcard is what needs to come first. Maybe even a few, because it's too soon. Let's say they're potentially 6 months behind, because it takes 3 months just to get to the list pendants. And I would bet that the banks were not rushing to do that even. So, but even if they did, even if they filed it to protect themselves after 90 days of no mortgages, now we're in March. So that's 6 months potentially of no mortgages paid. And who knows why? Who knows, you know, what their situation is. We don't know. Could be a job loss, could be a COVID death, could be anything, right? So maybe starting with a card or a postcard would be wiser than knocking on the door or even calling, so that they kind of get familiar with you, because they're not going to make a decision today, most likely. They have time. But that's how you find the information. Their original amount of the loan wasn't even a lot. See, and this is probably a smaller lender, Homecomings Financial. That doesn't mean that they won't hesitate to take the money, to take the property away, right? So let's go to another one, just so we can see. Oh, crud. Sorry, I knew that was too close. All right, let's do this. Okay, so let's just click on it. I'll move you so you can see. So there's some condos on here. Des Plaines has a lot of condos, so no surprise. Here's one. Let's click on one that has less equity. So this one maybe doesn't even have any equity. This one has 15,000 in equity. Bianco Terrace. Everybody knows Bianco Terrace. So again, so on this one, it's owner occupied. And it is original loan amount 113.9. The 15% equity. The loan balance is 88. So, oh, and then if you go down here to associated people, that will usually tell you who the owner is. They must be on a do not call list or whatever. Sometimes this information isn't accurate though. So you might want to look at the tax records to confirm who the owner is. Typically the tax records are going to whoever the owner is. The tax bill, I mean. So, I mean, Remind makes it real easy. If you live in Chicago and you have a Chicago Public card, Chicago Public Library card, that's another option as well to try to not only to find foreclosures or distressed properties, but also to find out if a sale date has been scheduled or if it's a sale or if a sale took place already. If you know a sale date had been scheduled, you know, has it taken place? Because sometimes they're canceled. So, but you can only do this with a Chicago Public Library card. I don't know if the suburban libraries offer a similar thing, because I don't live in the suburbs, so I have no idea. So I can search by all the different counties. I'll go to Cook. And I'll say for the last year, let's say 3/1/2020. And there's a lot of information I could put in here. If I'm looking for a specific property, you know, I'll put in more information. Or if I want to look in a specific date time frame for the sale, that the sale is scheduled, or a foreclosure amount or an original loan amount, I could put all that in there. I'm not going to. I'm just going to put in. See, here's where I could put in like the full address, and now they updated this where it will verify the address is valid. So I'm just going to go to that same 60016, and look at over here. You can even go by ethnic origin. So if you want to try to help people who are, you know, the same ethnicity as you, because you think they might be more trusting of you or more willing to work with you, then you can even check that. I've never done that. I've never even paid attention to that, but I just happened to see it now. And then you go all the way to the bottom. So you see, I only put one thing in really. I put the date and the zip code. I didn't put anything else in. So let's see how many this one says there are. Okay, so there, see, this says there are 38 in the last year, and Remind was only telling us 11. So sometimes you have to check more than one resource, right? You can't just put all your eggs in one basket. So now this is gonna show me that this property has it had a sale date. It just passed. Was that Friday?
No, Saturday.
It was
And-
Saturday, but they don't
Yeah.
usually do sales on Saturday. So let's go down to the bottom here. The sale was canceled. Oh, the original sale date was 10/17. Normally once the sale, so here's what happens. Once the property sells at auction, at the foreclosure auction, it takes 30 days for the sale to be confirmed. Okay, so it has to go back to court and be confirmed that the sale was valid and legal. And then after that, if there's anybody living in the property, it will be after that that the servicer will be serving notice to vacate the property. And usually they give at least another 30 days, just so you know that process. And because we can't evict now, even if somebody's in there and doesn't leave, usually the bank, sometimes they offer them for sale with tenants in there. Have you seen that where it says do not disturb tenants and it's a bank owned property and you're like, wait a minute, why are there tenants? It's a bank owned property. That's because they can't get them out. And it means that if you buy it now, you're buying it with those tenants. Good luck to you. Now, it's not for the faint of heart, but there are investors who do this all the time. And what they do is they go ahead and they buy it with the tenant in there. Then they, you know, if they know that it's in the location they want and they've only seen it from the outside and they think, well, I'm going to gut it anyway, you know, it looks whatever, it looks good from the outside, then they will offer the tenant some money to leave. That's how they get them out. And sometimes the banks will get them out that way as well. So the question is, I think that this 3/20 sale date was also canceled. Here's what else it tells us. Here's the original mortgage date. It was an ARM. Interest rate was 7.8. Tells you the per diem. That means the per day amount of the mortgage. And that's important to know when they're on the do not call list. Okay. So there's a lot of information on here as well. And usually on here, okay, see, it's two mortgages. Sometimes there's somebody here and somebody here too. So JP Mortgage is the first lender for $30,000. And the Dovemule is the second lender, surprisingly at a higher amount, $135,600. The judgment, the total judgment is for $300,000. So that's what they're behind. And plus attorney fees, $303,000. Ouch. It's an apartment building. Yeah. Who was the attorney? Wells Fargo is the plaintiff. If Wells Fargo is the plaintiff, then why is she? Oh, there's 3 mortgages. My apologies. There's 3 mortgages. So the first mortgage is with Wells Fargo, and their judgment is for $303,586. The second lender is Chase for $30,000, and the third lender is Dovemule for $135,600. That's a lot of loans. So you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. This is probably one that you wouldn't even want to tangle with. Not that they can't be done. I've done them, but it's a lot of work. It's 3 times work, let's face it. So here's another one. Wait, is this the same one? This is the same one. Real estate auction, yes. Oh, 3/20/20 is the date, not 21. Yeah, so the sale was canceled. So they still have this property. I don't know what they're doing. Let's see what the next one, if it's the same one. Oh, this is a different one. Okay, so this one, the sale date was scheduled for last year. And if we go down here, it was a private sale. So somebody did buy it. They might have sold it. They might have done a short sale or sold it directly themselves. So that's the other thing. When you look at this, you have to know what you're looking at. Sale date was in May. It was also a private sale. So maybe that's why we only saw 11 on
Remind.
Remind, because they're the ones that are actually still out there with, I'm surprised there were so many sales scheduled in 2020. Here's June. These all had to be in foreclosure prior to COVID, already like well into foreclosure. Those were the only ones I think they were going through. This sale was canceled. This is a condominium. So that's how you find them. So if you have a Chicago Public Library card, you can go to the Illinois Public Records and find them that way. I'm sure there are other resources. Title companies, I think, can help you. Like Chicago Title, I think, has a way to do searches for them as well. Remind's an easy way that everybody can use. You don't need to you know, go anywhere else or have anything additional. And it gives you a lot of information. So if you're looking for them, that's how you can find them. Maybe before you start looking for them, you should think about how you're going to approach them. It has to be a soft approach, definitely. Any questions?
No.
We're an
Sally,
hour from. Yeah.
I just have one question. Can we still ask for 6% commission from the bank?
Absolutely. They'll pay 6% all day long.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be silly not to ask for it because they'll approve it. No problem. It used to be they were approving big numbers for attorneys too. And they were also approving big numbers for third-party negotiators. And I'm talking big numbers like $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. They don't do that anymore. They prefer that the homeowner and their agent do the short sale. Attorneys will get a little bit more, usually 15 to 25. I've seen some get as much as 5, but it's tricky business. And if the attorney's doing it, that's on them. If you're negotiating it as the listing agent, all you're going to get is your commission. Okay. If you're working for an attorney as their negotiator, then you would get paid by that, you know, that attorney. Or if you're the attorney and who has an in-house negotiator, it's up to them to negotiate what the bank will pay them. But they're not as big in numbers as they used to be. We used to see deals close with attorneys and third-party companies getting $10,000 and $15,000, and we're like, wow, where's the justice?
Yeah.
Now, is it worth $10,000 or $15,000 to do the negotiation? It absolutely is, but it doesn't make sense, right? Like the homeowner is in distress and the bank is already getting way less than what they're owed. So it didn't like make sense that they were willing to pay that much, but they were, because that reduces the amount of that goes towards the seller's mortgage, right? If they're giving the attorney $10,000, they can't also give the seller $10,000 off their mortgage. So if they weren't getting their balance waived, it's really important that that approval letter states that their balance is waived. Okay, so sometimes you might get a short sale letter that agrees to the short sale but doesn't waive the balance. That's not good for the buyer, for the seller. Because again, that means the bank is leaving the door open to come back after them for the balance. And if they paid the attorney $10,000, that's $10,000 off of the balance, still on the balance that could have been reduced. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's clearing my cookies. Thank you. So that's really about all I have to say about it.
Now, I wanted to ask you the typical question when you go in there and people are getting behind, when you're informing them about foreclosures or short sales, like how does that affect their credit?
So a foreclosure is going to have a bigger hit on their credit. They're both going to have a hit on their credit. There's several points. A foreclosure is harder to recover from because with a foreclosure, you can't get another mortgage for 7 years. And it depends sometimes on who the end investor is, Fannie or Freddie, but it's like 7 years before you can get another mortgage. Whereas with a short sale, you can get another mortgage. I believe it's after the 3-year anniversary, 2 or 3 year anniversary.
And that's the anniversary of when it was
Of
like
when
done,
the short
said
sale
and
was
done.
consummated. When the short sale was consummated.
Yeah, not was not when they started.
No, when the short sale was completed.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So it's easier to recover from a short sale or a deed in lieu. Your credit score will recover faster, and your ability to get another mortgage will recover faster. And you have that opportunity to waive any balance. You do not have that opportunity with a foreclosure. That's the biggest thing. That really is, to cancel that, the rest of that debt, that's the biggest thing. Any other questions?
Excuse me.
Nope. Having heard no additional bingos, I always feel like it's like the end of at the bingo when I used to go with my mom, you know, they would have a bingo, they'd call the numbers and they'd say, are there any other bingos? Hearing no other bingos, there was one winner for $1,000. That's how I feel at the end of all of these.
What about the copy that you said 9-page copy?
I'm sorry, Shaheen?
9-page copy, you said.
Yeah, I'll finish editing it and then I'll.
Okay.
When the recording is posted, I'll attach it in the comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I won't forget. I've got it on my other computer. Okay. I was still editing it when the class started.
Oh, okay.
But I figured that would be the best way to make sure that you have, you know, the current accurate information, and it'll answer a lot of questions for you. And you can always call or text me if you have a specific question, like if you're listing one or in the middle of one and you have a question, give me a call. Or if you're working with a buyer and you don't know what questions to ask the other agent, you can call me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Y'all know where to find me.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your attention and time and great questions. Have a good day, guys. Jane, any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. This was amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.